Welcome, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with the very wonderful Viki Winterton. Viki, it's great to be talking with you again and on air and sharing everything with you. I'm going to get Viki to introduce herself properly in just a second. But just to give you a brief overview, Viki Winterton is the founder of Expert Insights Publishing. It's the home of best-selling and award-winning books and magazines. She is an amazing lady. She's just every time we meet, every time I connect with her, I get so much great energy, and I love having these chats. So I feel myself very privileged to be sharing with you today, Viki.
Thank you so much, Ellen. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to be with you again.
So we're going to share. I'm going to ask you to share today your wisdom, your experience with those who are watching and who are going to watch this at a later date. So perhaps I can start by asking you, who is Viki Winterton? Where have you come from, and what are your passions?
Oh, well, thank you again, Helen. Basically, I was born into entrepreneurship. My father was a barnstormer and quite an adventuresome spirit, and I think I came by it genetically and environmentally. That I started my own ad agency when I was in my mid-20s, and we rapidly grew to be very successful with numerous offices all over the country, and we were acquired. And a number of my clients who were Fortune 500 companies asked me then to come to work with them within their organizations to consult and coach them on change management initiatives. So I worked with CEOs and visionaries and then with the teams to actually bring their vision to fruition. And I did that for almost 30 years. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I found it was such a lonely journey out there on the road, traveling 95% of the time, that I decided to shift gears, and I started a consultant, actually a community for coaches. And it now has expanded to writers and entrepreneurs and speakers. And basically it was where they could find all the resources they needed in order to be successful and in order to really collaborate with one another, because that was something that I found really missing with my life and my time on the road. And it quickly evolved into, through the needs that I saw, the ability to bring these people together with people that are truly household names and visionaries in our field of empowerment, and actually put them together in different venues. And we created broadcasts and magazines and TV and now books. And we're very grateful. And just the last year, we've had over 7 bestsellers, #1 bestsellers on Amazon, and we've created 327 new best-selling authors. So that's kind of how it all began, and that's what it's evolved into. And it's just my joy and my pleasure to bring people together with these extraordinary experts in venues that the readers find really interesting, and of course they've been very popular and have gone bestseller, as I mentioned. So it's just a pleasure to be involved in that now.
That's amazing. It's really wonderful what you're doing, and just listening to you and watching you and hearing you, everybody can feel the passion and the commitment, and this is coming from the inside.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I think I discovered really early when I had my ad agency in my mid-20s that we would foster relationships with maybe one Fortune 500 company, and that would bring on through referrals and just the nature of people talking about what we'd been able to accomplish for them, a number of referrals to other companies and generating really a lot of great connections with those people. And so I learned early on that the company you keep is really, really important. And if you keep that good company, it continues to grow and it continues to expand to a huge family that can really be responsible for your success. So that's what I wanted to bring to all of the people in our communities and those people we work with, and the authors and so forth, is that ability to really make the most of what that looks like for them.
So what are the challenges people are facing today, do you think, as far as sort of making these connections, building the community, building the networks that really help them and serve them and empower them?
I think the first thing is to really be able to define where your passion and your purpose lies. And for me, it was being able to really, and I think we've talked about this before, Helen, but it was really being able to communicate to myself and then to others what I really, the essence of what I was doing. And I realized the essence for me of what I was doing was really the connectivity, like being a liaison between people who needed something and people who had what they needed. And I did that in advertising and, the consultancy to Fortune 500 companies and in all sorts of different industries. It may not have, for a while even for me, I had to search for what was the commonality there. And then I realized the real essence of what I did was providing this liaison, this collaboration, and being the person that puts it together. I'm not necessarily, though I have appeared on many stages and done many interviews, but I'm not necessarily the person that does that. That's not where my passion lies. My passion lies in providing the stage and then providing that opportunity for people who want to be on that stage. And so when I figured out that that was really the essence, then I saw the commonality through my whole life of all the work that I'd done and continue to do now. So I think that's number one, is really being able to find not just what your purpose is, but also the essence of what that looks like, and be able to draw that thread through the things that you've done, that you're doing, and that you're going to do in the future. So I think that's really important. And then being able to develop a platform in a really, really noisy, busy world out there. As we get more and more technology, which is wonderful. I mean, I'm in Mexico and you're in Belgium and we're talking today. I mean, this is like amazing. It's like almost being in the room with you. Not quite as good, but almost. And so I think as that advances, also the busyness and the idea that we have the ability to reach out to the whole entire world now, it can be overwhelming, and it can also, it's also easy to get lost unless you have a unique message. And I think one of the greatest ways, as I mentioned earlier, to get your unique message out is in the company of people who are really well known in the world and have already succeeded in that. And so through our book anthologies and radio shows and a number of the other venues that we've created, it's been very easy to position people that are not as well known with people that are household names, as I mentioned earlier, and really get their message out in a way that they develop huge respect and the notoriety of being an expert in their field very quickly. So I think that that's important, and it's more difficult as technology becomes more and more advanced.
That's very interesting, isn't it? I can certainly I can relate to everything that you're saying. The technology can be very overwhelming sometimes, and we seem to have so much choice. And sometimes when we have too much choice, we have no choice at all.
That's so true. So wise.
The challenge, yes, is to develop your purpose, what you're passionate about, and getting it out there. And I know that sometimes you can just feel just like too much. So what is it that people have to do then? They have to, one, really connect with their essence, their purpose, and two, do what they need to be with people, to be around people who've already done it. I mean, and look at what they did and come from, get themselves in the same space. Is that the essence of what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that technology has done for us that is really, really wonderful is we're in a position now where we can use the internet for all sorts of things to determine, once we've decided what the essence is of our passion and our purpose, then we can determine who our target audience is, who really needs that service, what are their needs, what keeps them up at night, and so forth. And we can use the internet to do all of that, which is really a fabulous thing. We can do the research to find out what they're talking about on blogs, and again, what is really troubling them, and find a way to answer those needs of those people if that's really our passion and our calling to be of service in that way. And so I think the internet is marvelous that way. We can join communities, and we can also actually establish communities. On LinkedIn and Facebook, there's ability to establish communities totally free of charge and develop a following that way and develop recognition of being an expert. We actually develop communities for every selling launchpad, where we actually have a ongoing community for authors. But then we also develop like a fan club for the books, and it's amazing. We'll have thousands of people that over a matter of weeks or a couple months will sign up and have interest in the book and start following the authors. And so this is a very easy thing to do, and another way to set yourself up as an expert in alignment with other experts. It's really extraordinary the time in which we live. So I think being able to define it, I certainly have used a lot of marketing terms over the years, but I found that sometimes it's easier for people to look at things with a less of a marketing slant and just look at it and think, what do I love to do, and who do I love to do it with? Who do I love to hang out with? What do they look like? Where do they hang out on the web? And then go and figure out how you can play with those people. How can you find out what they need and research, and then go and actually develop your own playground to play with them in, and also join other playgrounds where they hang out so that you can get to know them. And I think if you look at it that way, more as community-oriented, communication-oriented endeavor, rather than all the technical terms, marketing research, and developing of focus groups and all of these things. You don't really have to go there. You can think of it in terms of just who you want to be with, how you can be of service to those people, and then how you can get your message out through this wonderful thing we call the web.
I love it. I love the idea of the playground.
I do too, because it's how I feel. I really feel my work is play, and sometimes I have to pinch myself and think, oh my gosh, it's been 12 hours today or 14 hours today. It just gets away from me because I love what I do so much. Just like being with you today, Helen, from all of this distance and being able to communicate. It's like it's just such a marvelous gift, and I really don't look at this as work. And I think if you have found your purpose and your passion, you're not going to be looking at it as work. You're going to be looking at it as a joy in your life.
That's so true. That is so true. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's about play all the time, because that's what it feels like, and it's really, really lovely. So what can you offer? What advice can you give to people straight away so that they can start connecting with their purpose and playing in their own playground and inviting the other kids to come and play with them?
Well, I think one of the hardest things that I had to learn to do, especially coming from advertising, which is, a really competitive, high energy field, was being able to take the time to get clarification from within, to take quiet time. When I was younger, if something wasn't coming quick enough, fast enough, I would work harder at it. And I found that with the things I'm doing now, when things don't come to me, or they're not coming to me with a lot of clarity, I'll step back. I may go down to the beach or by the water and walk, or just sit and relax, or lie in the sun, or whatever. And it's it gives the space for the clarity to come in. And I never saw that when I was younger. So I think that that's really important, to give yourself the space for your creativity to come in, that intuitive quality that comes in and lets you know what you need to be doing. And I find that if I make space for it, it never fails me. So that was kind of a surprising and, I would say, somewhat new revelation for me, just maybe over the last decade, and I've been in the business for a really, really long time. But starting to really use that, I'd say, especially over the last 5 years, when we've started all of these wonderful communities and many, many different endeavors. I mean, we started a community with 300 people less than 5 years ago. And now we have all these best-selling books and 2 magazines and broadcasts and so forth. And it's grown really rapidly, and you have to leave the space for it to grow. You can't just hammer at it. And I think that that's one of the most important things that I would like to share that, I've learned only recently with a pretty long career.
That's wise words. Wise words. I've done the same, and it's one of those things you have to practice, isn't it? As soon as you feel that something is getting a little bit sticky and not quite right, okay, take a step back, and really allow whatever has to happen, and often you'll find the answer. I think that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I think, we're in total agreement on this, Helen, and we both had it really work for us. I know you've shared with me that it's worked so well for you personally too. And as you say, it's almost like a conditioning, because your response is to go after it even more so. And I'm 100% a believer in action, but I think after you've taken action, if you get into an area where there's growth, where there's a need for creativity, where there's a need for clarity, then stepping back, and sometimes it's only an hour. Sometimes I can take an hour break and it'll all be clear, and sometimes it'll come to me overnight, and maybe I'll start working on something that is aside from that area where I'm kind of stuck, and still be productive, but then let that kind of come. And sometimes it comes with time. Another thing I think is really interesting that I found, and I don't know if you found this, Helen, I'm sure you probably have, because you developed such enormously wonderful things around you in your programs and what you're offering. But I found that sometimes I'll think that a certain aspect of what I'm doing, this is it. This is it. And it's not clear because it's only a small part of it. It's a piece of it, and the whole entire vision of what it is hasn't come to me yet. I mean, when we did our first magazine, I thought, this is it. And this was something I'd been thinking about for decades and decades, since I was in my mid-20s. I always wanted to do a magazine, something similar to Andy Warhol's interview magazine, but his magazine was really around the arts, and I wanted this to be around empowerment. And I thought about it. The timing was never right, but I never let it go. And finally, it came to fruition. Just, like our first magazine is only 3.5 years old. But the amazing thing about that was that magazine was only the start. Then another magazine came along. All the interviews came along on TV and radio for the magazine, and then now the books. So it was really a small part of a bigger picture that just wasn't revealed to me yet.
That's wonderful, and that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes we try to be the CEOs of the universe, and just make it all happen, but we can't imagine how big it's going to be, and so it's almost like by doing that, we're capping ourselves, we're limiting ourselves to begin with. So relax and let it unfold is very, very, very good advice, very wise words indeed.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's interesting too, because I have a great support team around me, but there are some things that I just don't delegate, and I don't necessarily invite the team in on until I've done some research myself and have done some particularly in the area of collaboration. I really like when there are collaborative opportunities to be able to review the details of those myself. And the details are not always about the money or what's to be made or, what. I believe collaboration has to be a win-win situation. But I would have missed so many opportunities if I had just been looking at dollars and cents or figures on a tablet, or a spreadsheet. Some of the really greatest ideas and the greatest collaborations have come from things that have happened during conversations, during interviews sometimes. Something will be said and it will be an idea. I had someone who sent me an email today and had a great idea for a book, and it's all around cancer survivors, and it was something that I hadn't even thought of, and both of my parents died of cancer. But I hadn't even thought about a book, a collaborative book on this subject until I received this email this morning. And if I hadn't been in direct communication with that person, that could have fallen through the cracks. So it's just so great. And another example is that you are coming to speak along with Linda Dyer to our annual event, which is going to be in New Mexico at the Albuquerque Hot Air Balloon Fiesta in the Balloon Museum, which is going to be extraordinary. It's October 3rd through the 5th. And I had talked with Linda about the possibility, and you about the possibility separately, having no idea that you were already collaborating on a really powerful project that you could present there jointly. And it's like, she's in Australia, you're in Belgium, I'm in Mexico. How did that happen? But it happens through that kind of direct collaboration. And I think that particular area of my business, if I delegated that out like so many do, I would miss a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, that's very true. It's almost like it's that special message that is meant just for you. There's some things that are meant for us, and that's, we need to pick up on them. So what could you share today? Something, a product or a service or something you'd like to share with people who are watching you today?
Well, we're currently working on 3 different books, and we're always looking for interesting people to interview for our magazines, for our broadcast. So what I would suggest is people would go to expertinsightspublishing.com. They'll find links to all of the various different things that we do, broadcasts, the magazines, as well as our books. And we currently have, a number of books with some really incredible people in them that some of them will be closing shortly, and others will be accepting new authors in the books for the remainder of the year. But some of the type of people that appear in our books and in our magazines are like Carla Slim, the richest man in the world, and we have Marshall Goldsmith frequently with us, and he's one of the top leadership experts in the world. And then we have like James Malinchak, who was a secret millionaire on ABC's TV show. We have a really broad range of wonderful experts from all the different communities, empowerment, the medical community, in anything that will really enrich people's life. We have experts from those arenas that appear in our magazines and books. So I'd love to invite anyone to come to the website and visit and see if there's something that would be of interest to them there to really propel their value for the public as them as an expert out there.
That's wonderful, Viki. Thank you so much. It's been a joy, as always, talking to you and sharing with you, and it's been wonderful to have had this opportunity to connect with you again. So thank you so much for